Githunguri and Thika, moving on to Machakos, and finally in Nairobi, where after a period spanning about slightly over 15 years, I resigned to go to venture into politics. At my first attempt in 1997, I did not succeed, but soon thereafter, the vacancy fell, the seat fell vacant through death, and I was elected as Member of Parliament for Siakago constituency, as it then was known, after which I joined Parliament, and in 2002, December, I successfully defended my seat and returned back to Parliament, where I served as opposition chief whip then, because the party on which I had been elected and been trounced very badly in the 2002 general elections, and we became the opposition. While in Bunge at that time, I was also elected by my colleagues to chair the Public Investments Committee, where some of the people who served me, I can see are to the left of Mr. Speaker, Chairman, and a few other officers. Mr. Chairman, in 2007, I lost the parliamentary seat, and I was out of Parliament for 5 years, during which period I was deeply engaged in the constitutional review programs that were there. And I was finally elected as to chair the Center for Multi-Party Democracy. After that, Mr. Chairman, in 2013, after the general elections, I was elected the Speaker of the National Assembly, a position I held for 2 terms. In the elections of 2022, Mr. Chairman, I did not run for any office, but I joined through a coalition partnership agreement with the teams that formed Kenya Kwanza, initially being the United Democratic Alliance Party, Ford Kenya, and ANC as leader of the Democratic Party. Subsequently, His Excellency the President appointed me through a nomination that was approved by this House, by this committee, recommended for approval by this committee to the House, subsequent to which His Excellency the President appointed me as the Attorney General, the 8th Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya. I served in that position for a period of 20 months and 15 days, up to the 11th of July 2022, when I tendered my resignation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and honorable members.
Thank you. Deputy Speaker, any question?
No questions. No questions from senior.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. CS nominee, there is a government internship program under the Ministry of Public Service, and many of us have messages from Kenyans, especially young Kenyans who have gone through the internship program, asking what is the plan of onboarding them as permanent staff in government, or linking them with other state agencies, for permanent and pensionable jobs. And we'd want to hear what plans you have, should you be confirmed into that docket, to make sure that that internship program not only helps the youth to gain experience, but also helps them to get linked to actual permanent and pensionable jobs.
Nominee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Leader of Majority, for that question. Indeed, I want to confirm to this committee and to Kenyans that I have also received well over close to 300 such messages from those interns, the young Kenyans who have gone through that program, which was initiated, I believe, with the very best of intentions. But unfortunately, I think the implementation has faced some challenges because young Kenyans have been taken through the program, posted into ministries, but after 1 year, they find themselves back on the streets. Indeed, it is a very challenging thing. Mr. Chairman, my personal view about this program of internship, before I come to say what I think should be done, is that it should be changed to not just a public service commission internship program. It should actually be a Kenya national internship program, where both government and the private sector become active players. I believe it would have been much better if the program had involved the private sector, because the skills that these young Kenyans have are varied. They're not necessarily trained to go and work in the public service. Because sometimes you may find a university graduate that has been trained in agriculture, for instance, being taken to the Ministry of ICT. They will just be there for those 12 months and the stipends that they are given. After 12 months, those kids have really gained very little in terms of the field that they were trained in by way of experience. So, Mr. Chairman, my view is that this program should be worked, reworked, re-engineered, so that the young Kenyans that are taken into it are taken including the private sector, where indeed the private sector would be encouraged. Either government of Kenya, because Parliament gave the resources to the Public Service Commission to employ those or to engage those interns. But if we expanded it, it means that either the government of Kenya would have young Kenyan interns being taken to various places in industry, both in the public sector and in the private sector, where their skills would be much more relevant and be much more useful. And thereafter, either it can be agreed that government will pay for continue paying their stipends, or in the alternative, those private sector players to whom the interns would be attached would be given some incentives, and indeed, perhaps if we did that, we could find that we could actually attract more Kenyan youth in the internship program than the current numbers that we take today. Moving forward, Mr. Chairman, I think it is not right to assume that governments can employ every Kenyan that has gone through school. But on the other hand, government has a responsibility. We all have a responsibility in leadership to ensure that we grow the economy of this country so as to be able to attract as many of our young, talented Kenyans into the job market. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, this is a program that I intend to, if I find favor, as Mr. Chairman, you have, I've heard you say from time to time, you have find favor with this committee and the House and get confirmed into this position through appointment. It is something that we will need to sit with the Public Service Commission, because as you would appreciate, the role of the ministry is to facilitate. And here, Mr. Chairman, it's good for me to point out that public service spans across every arm, so that indeed, Mr. Chairman, even the policeman on the road is the public service. The doctors and the health personnel are also doing public service. So it's a ministry that I find quite interesting. It permeates every sector of the public service. But more specifically, to respond to the issue raised by the Leader of Majority, which has also been raised with me, as I said at the beginning, it is to sit with the Public Service Commission and see how best to address the plight of the various cohorts, because very few, Mr. Chairman, have been absorbed in the public service. And these are our children. We all must feel for them. We see how best to have them placed in well-paying jobs and remove them from the streets. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mary.
Thank you, Chairman. Nominee, Kenyans, with respect to the same issue of internship, Kenyans want to know the fact that the outgoing CS did suspend ongoing and any new recruitment. If you are approved, what you're going to do about that? He had proposed a formation of a tripartite committee to look into all those issues. And they are also saying the public servants, they're aging. The public service is an aged lot. And so in the interest of succession planning, what are you going to do if at all you are suspending recruitment? And finally, they're also saying they're raising the concerns on corruption and nepotism, where jobs at the public service are also going to the highest bidder or to whom you know. So if you are approved, what are you going to do about it? So kindly speak to those issues and you'll be, so that we do not bring up the issue again. Thank you.
Chairman, this is just a supplementary question. I hope I don't lose my slot later, because I'm very interested in this. We're going to third reading of a bill I have sponsored on the public service internship. And I agree with you what you have said. We actually consulted a lot on the private sector, but we realized it needs further engagement on issues to do with private sector because incentives and all that. But now, the direct question that the young people are asking, and they have told me without that amendment in your bill, in the third reading, but then you can stay with your bill. They're saying there has to be provision of them gaining full employment after the internship. Because they're saying otherwise, if that is not there, the government and other entities are just enjoying cheap labor. And then they go back, as you have said, after 1 year. And so it is good to be honest, because I know later you'll be told it's budgetary issues. You can commit here and then later you say there's no money. So the young people just want an honest answer, whether they will be employed after their internship. And the last thing just on that, Chairman, is that the last question, I agree with you also on one thing. Public Service Commission, and we engaged during the public participation. Internship is not a preserve of the Public Service Commission. The Parliamentary Service Commission also takes interns, the Judicial Service Commission, other commissions in TAC, which actually has a good practice where they have a merit list. So instead of advertising again for new people to get full employment, why don't we have a database of the ones who've done internship and they be given priority when it is time for employment and they create space for others to get internship?
Mr. Chairman, can I? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And through you, Mr. Chairman, I want to respond to the issues raised by the member for Teso South, the Honorable Mary Amase, where she raised the issue of a circular. And let me first of all say that I haven't come across any such circular. It was a pronouncement which I think has not been secularized. The issue that I'm aware of is that of course, which every one of us is aware, is the issue of the austerity measures being implemented currently, which have necessitated some temporary or sort of a moratorium on recruitment. It is not that it has been stopped. So it is not, I don't think whether it's right for us to say that there's been a circular. There hasn't been any, because I've gone through, it's an issue that I was addressing when I met with the senior staff of the ministry. Mr. Chairman, the issue of aging staff is true, and this also speaks to the question of succession planning. And I think it is right to say that something somewhere has gone wrong within the HR department, the human resource area. Because it is true, Mr. Chairman, you find, I don't know members, you find that some very, very senior people in the public service, the people that deputize, and they are almost exiting the service, but the people deputizing them are so lowly placed. I think that that is a mistake that must be corrected immediately. And it's a matter of us having to engage properly with the Public Service Commission, because people are all over. But some certain things which I believe maybe we will have occasion to discuss later, the issue of training, on-job training, seems to have taken some back seats. And that is where the problem of aging staff, people wanting to remain without people sufficiently well prepared and trained to take over their positions. I think it is a mistake. It needs to be addressed as soon as possible. The Honorable Miriam Massey, through you, Mr. Chairman, did raise the issue of corruption in recruitment. Mr. Chairman, this is, I think, a thorn in all areas of, most of the publics in the entire gamut of public service recruitments, because there's a lot of opaqueness. Positions are advertised. When people are long listed, you see names, then they are shortlisted, then you don't know what the processes that happen thereafter. And connected to this, Mr. Chairman, is if you read Article 232 of the Constitution on the mandate and functions of the Public Service Commission, among others, is to ensure efficiency and effectiveness in the public service. And the other value and principle is the diversity of Kenya, diversity among regions and communities. It is a value that is embedded in that Article 232. But, Mr. Chairman, you and I will know, sometimes it's very difficult, and we have seen reports that have been published that really show skewed, very, very skewed situations about how many people, how many civil servants are in which area. And Mr. Chairman, I'm not blowing my trumpet, but I want to tell the country and this committee that while I worked here, we had occasion to, first of all, before making placements, to indicate, first of all, to get to know how many people already are in service and from which counties, so as to ensure that those counties that do not have representation here, even through affirmative action, get the chance to work at this premier institution, national premier institution called Parliament. Mr. Chairman, in addressing this issue, these are some of the practices that I would want to suggest to the Public Service Commission to employ, because every part of Kenya deserves a chance to serve in the public service. Mr. Chairman, I have sympathy with what the Honorable Lesunda, through you, has been told by the young people as she was processing her bill. Mr. Chairman, we must say this without feeling shy about it. It may not be possible for the public service, indeed not just me, it cannot be possible for the public service to employ every Kenyan that goes through the training. But it is the duty of government to ensure that we have policies and programs that make it possible for the economy to absorb those whom we train in our various institutions of higher learning and others. So it's an altruism, and I think I want to agree with the honourable member that I don't want to be visited by, to be haunted by nightmares. If I give a commitment here that we will absorb, the chairman, we may not be able to, but we have to look for ways of ensuring that those that have been taken through the process finally find some placement one way or other. There are various options available.
Thank you.
Before he moves out of that, Honorable Speaker, would you then, if you may not assure them of placement, but at least priority when opportunities arise, especially now that there has been a pronouncement that those who are above 60 years of age will not have their contracts being renewed or extended?
Actually, I had noted the issue of priority, that yes, and I think we must take a lead from what the president said the other day when he was at a pass-out parade for the NYS recruits, when he suggested to the Kenya Defense Forces and the National Police and other security agencies that please, when you're recruiting, because the people that go through the NYS first of all get a 6 months paramilitary training. So it makes perfect sense that if possible, do about 80% of those. And they come from every corner of the Republic. So even in respect to these interns, I think we should give priority when it comes to absorption to those that have gone through the program. Thank you.
Jeanette.